basketball championship, the national championship game.
CBS Sports presents Prelude to a Championship, sponsored by Honda, who invites you to learn more about the Accord Spring Lease Program, now available at participating Honda dealers.
You know, every now and then I think you might like to hear something from us. Nice and easy. Rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. Listen to the story now. Rolling, 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 rolling on the river. Rolling on the river.
Michael Jordan jumper from out on the left. Good! The Tar Heels are going to win the national championship!
Everybody stolen! He's stolen! It's up in the air, and the shot is away, and no good, and Michigan's won.
Welcome to Prelude to a Championship, and in less than 20 minutes from now, North Carolina and Michigan will tip off the title game, and the winner will take home this trophy. For the Tar Heels, this is the same floor where Dean Smith won his first and only championship on a Michael Jordan shot that you saw there back in 1982. And when you think about North Carolina these days, you think big. Eric Montross, the 7-footer who fills up the middle, would love to hand Dean Smith another championship in the Superdome. And what do you think about when you think Michigan? Chris Webber, the Fab Five, they came in second last year. They've got other plans tonight, and joining me again is our own Universal James Brown, the godfather of college basketball. And JB, not only a great matchup, but a rematch tonight.
Pat, you know, a rematch that's anxiously awaited, and most people are expecting a dream matchup, and the reason is because of that first game. Let me take the audience back to that first matchup, which took place 4 days after Christmas and the Rainbow Classic in Hawaii. Michigan in goal wins it on a last-second tip-in here by Jalen Rose. Michigan ekes out a 1-point victory. Now, many people are asking, which team comes in with a psychological advantage? I think neither team. They are comfortable with each other. Neither team intimidated, but Michigan does have a plus. Ray Jackson is healthy. He was injured in that first game, and I think his perimeter defense, along with Jimmy King, will be crucial to the outcome tonight.
Nothing like hearing from the Godfather on a title night. You know, there is one key injury to update. On Saturday, North Carolina's Derek Phelps bruised his left hip on that drive to the basket in the second half. He played the remaining 13 minutes in pain. For more on this story, here's Leslie Visser. Leslie, you're on.
Pat, when it comes to Derek Phelps, the Tar Heels ought to change their colors to Carolina black and blue. This guy is a walking mash unit. So far this year, he's had a slight concussion, bruised ribs, a chipped elbow, a banged-up knee. You just referred to the hip that he's still struggling on. Well, he just said a few minutes ago when he was warming up that he feels fine now and that, hey, he has all summer to recover. Well, as for Michigan, Chris Webber is omitting no opportunity to bring the Wolverines good luck. He asked Rob Pelinka, who is the only player on the team who has a championship ring from '89, if he could sleep with Pelinka's championship ring under his pillow last night. Said Webber, maybe there's a basketball fairy. Pat?
All right, thank you, Leslie. You know, every kid who ever put on sneakers and shot hoops in the playground or driveway dreamed of one day winning the national championship. And we asked some of the Wolverines and Tar Heels what winning the title would mean to them.
I used to dream about it, but I never thought about it. I put myself in those positions, but I never, thought it would come to reality. Making it to 2 Final Fours and 2 championship games is something I could never fathom. I never thought it would happen. I just dreamed about it.
I think it'd be the, greatest feeling ever, I guess. It's something, I always wanted to win, and I think that'd be a big part, something for me in my whole college career to win a national championship. And, we got the opportunity, and I'm going to really go for it.
At the high school level, we won the national title also my senior year. And, I wanted to do that again. I think that, many people don't get this opportunity that I have, and I got to make the most of it while I'm here.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that it's just too much to really conceive right now. It's really out there, and it's a possibility, and the only way we'll really know for sure what it feels like is if we're up in the end.
I couldn't even guess what that feeling would be like. I just know that last year losing was the lowest point of my life, so hopefully this will be the highest point of my life. I couldn't even express it. I don't know. I just want to have that feeling just hit me.
Coming up, the man who's lived that dream more than once. Coach Mike Krzyzewski will join us as Prelude to a Championship rolls on from sea to shining sea here on CBS. Stay with us. Last year at this time, Mike Krzyzewski and his Duke Blue Devils defeated Michigan and hoisted aloft their second consecutive NCAA championship trophy. The good news is that Coach K made it back to the championship game. The bad news is he's joining us. Welcome, Coach K. Nice to see you again. You talk about this game. So many words have been written and spoken about this game. A #1 seed in the East and in the West, meeting in the title game. You got to love this game tonight.
Well, it's a great game, and we have the 2 most talented teams in the country, maybe the 2 biggest from 1 through 8 in depth. Although this place is the Superdome and real big, that court's going to look real small with all the big bodies out there tonight, Pat.
Mike, you talk about the big bodies. In order for those front lines to neutralize each other, Michigan's got to do a job of neutralizing Eric Montross, something that Kansas did not do the other night.
Well, they didn't do a good job of it, and we're going to take a look at the tape. You see where Montross is in the circle. He'll come across the lane. You see where the ball is at? Montross will come across the lane. Phelps right now with the ball takes it into the middle of the court, but he comes back. Here's Montross across the lane, and they pass it into him. Now look and see, he's matched up one-on-one there. And the man on the outside has a long distance to drop back to double team. He's not doing that. Montross now will give up the ball and get it right back. Carolina does a great job of this, and you can't stop him one-on-one inside. Then we take a look at the next clip, and this is Michigan against North Carolina in December. Again, they go from side to side. They try to isolate Montross in the post, but now when he gets it, look at all these Michigan guys. There are 5 of them around them. All 5. You can't even see Montross, so he has to give up the ball. And when he gives up the ball, Michigan's going to have to react, because in December, this was Derek Phelps out here. In April, it's going to be Donald Williams, and it'll be a 3-point shot.
And Mike, interestingly, because that is Donald Williams tonight out there, I don't think that Michigan can show that much attention to Montross. Again, I think King and Jackson are going to have to be keenly aware of Donald Williams.
They're going to have to do that, James, and they're going to have to alternate so it doesn't hurt the offensive games of King and Jackson, because they're going to need their outside shooting also.
All right, and Pat, as I turn back to you, Jalen Rose said just a few moments ago to me, I'm taking the trophy home tonight.
He said that to me, too.
Absolutely.
Who do you like?
I think North Carolina.
You're going to stick with your conference, huh? All right, a prelude to a championship will continue here on CBS right after this. Stay with us.
available at participating Honda dealers.
By the way, I've covered college athletics for 68 years and will continue, I assume, through time. And inside the Superdome, the crowd here is getting ready to watch Michigan and North Carolina make history. And here to chronicle the events as they unfold are two men who have, well, the best seats in the house. Jim Nantz and Billy Packer. Gentlemen, have a good one.
Thank you very much, Pat. We're ready for this one, Billy.
I believe so, Jim. After what we saw Saturday, which was one of the great semifinal days in the history of the NCAA tournament, I can't believe that this will be anything less.
By the way, this is Steve Fisher's third championship game, Dean Smith's fifth, and Billy Packer's 19th in a row.
Well, I appreciate that.
And you say one of the best.
I think it should be one of the best, Jim, because they're two teams that match up so well against each other.
We know this. By night's end, we'll have one shining moment for you, folks. But what about a Cajun classic like they've cooked up before here in New Orleans? Is that in store for us?
The time, 18. Shot, Jordan, Michael Jordan, 14 seconds. Brown. Look for Sleepy Floyd. Look. Oh, he threw it to the wrong man. He threw it to Worthy. It's over.
Smart takes the shot. And the Hoosiers with 3 seconds. Go ahead. So we have the ingredients for another Cajun classic, Michigan and North Carolina. And how about the Weber-Montross matchup, Billy?
Well, Jim, I think we have to go back to '84 when we had a low post matchup of Ewing, Olajuwon before we can talk about guys in the low post that are so good. Here we have Chris Webber, first team All-American. He was the MVP of the West Regional. And then right behind him a 7-foot, 270-pound man that has been awesome down in the low post. They go head-to-head. Could be the mark of who wins this ballgame.
All right, Billy, we talked to the players about what it'll take to win the national championship. Here's what they said.
Offensively, we have to establish our inside play. I know Eric Montross is a great player, and same with George Lynch. I respect their games a lot, but I feel Michigan has the best front court in the country.
We've got to be out there in the traps. We've got to be very aggressive. We have to be sprinting everywhere we go, especially getting them off the boards defensively, because if they get offensive boards, I think that's how they really hurt Kentucky.
We know that North Carolina is a team that like to give zone looks, so we have to get a chance to get the ball inside and find some little consecutive cuts and a lot of movement from our players. We have to dictate what we want them to do offensively and to get them into a rush where they're not taking the shots in their set offense.
Your national championship game. Michigan, North Carolina, coming up next.
CBS Sports coverage of the 1993 NCAA Basketball National Final Game is sponsored by the Heartbeat of America, Chevrolet, and your local Chevy dealer. Diet Mountain Dew. You've never done nothing till you do Diet Dew. Yeah. And by UPS, the package delivery company more companies count on.
The road to the Superdome for North Carolina. East Carolina, Rhode Island, a blowout victory, the largest blowout in second-round history. Arkansas, Cincinnati, where they came back from 15 down, and then Kansas on Saturday. And Billy, Michigan, Coastal Carolina, back from 19 down against UCLA. George Washington and Temple, they trailed in those games, and the overtime victory against Kentucky. Now for the starting lineups, the voice of the Final Four once again this year. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Frank Bellman.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Louisiana Superdome for tonight's NCAA National Championship game between the North Carolina Tar Heels and the Michigan Wolverines. And now let's meet the starting lineups. For North Carolina at forward, a 6'6" junior from the Bronx, New York, number 31, Brian Reese. For Michigan at forward, a 6'9" sophomore from Detroit, Michigan, number 4, Chris Webber. For North Carolina at forward, a 6'8" senior from Roanoke, Virginia, number 34, George Lynch. For Michigan at forward, a 6'6" sophomore from Austin, Texas, number 21, Ray Jackson. For North Carolina at center, a 7-foot junior from Indianapolis, Indiana, number 00, Eric Montross. For Michigan at center, a 6'9" sophomore from Chicago, Illinois, number 25, Juwan Howard. 6'3" sophomore from Garner, North Carolina, number 21, Donald Williams. For Michigan at guard, a 6'5" sophomore from Plano, Texas, number 24, Jimmy King. For North Carolina at the guard, a 6'4" junior from East Elmhurst, New York, number 14, Derek Phelps. And for Michigan at guard, a 6'8" sophomore from Detroit, Michigan, number 5, Jalen Rose. And the coaches for North Carolina in his 32nd season, Dean Smith. For Michigan in his 4th full season, Steve Fisher.
Billy Packer, how about your game analysis?
Well, Jim, there are going to be so many factors in a great game like this that people are matched up so well. So let's take a look at some that I think are really important. The blue-collar special, of course, talking about two outstanding players in there, George Lynch and Juwan Howard. 14 points a game each. They're brilliant basketball players and great competitors. Head-to-head. The 0-3s, a new record for a Final Four win for a team. Michigan was 0 for 4 against Kentucky from threes. They're going to have to make some tonight. Williams shadow. We're talking about Donald Williams, who has averaged 18.6 points a game in the NCAA. He's been their leader in scoring 12 times, but he's going to have Jimmy King and Ray Jackson. They'll be shadowing him tonight. And the 7-foot subs, I'm talking about Salvadori and Riley. Both of those players are very key here because Montross and Weber will have to sit some.
The officials, Ed Hightower, 6th consecutive Final Four from Alton, Illinois. Tom Harrington from Chico, California, his 4th Final Four. Jim Stupin from Cypress, California, in his 2nd Final Four. The alternate, Andre Patilla. I wonder if George Lynch repeated his message to his Tar Heels. Same message he gave them on Saturday when they broke huddle. Lynch said to his teammates when they took the floor, let's win this for Coach Smith.
Jim, those two guys matched up in the center. I'm going to make a prediction. Whatever one plays the most minutes tonight, their team will win the game.
That's Weber Montross. Weber said, I don't want the silver ring they gave us last year. I want the gold that says #1. And the team in gold, Michigan, has it first in the championship game.
Straight man-to-man. Matchups as we expected. Montross and Weber down inside. And there go those double-team traps for North Carolina.
Weber, three-pointer. Short, but online, but short, and it's Lynch with the rebound. Not surprising, he's led the Tar Heels in rebounding 3 straight years.
And a little change for Michigan. They're going to put Juwan Howard down there on Eric Montross and get the double team from the backside from Weber.
And Weber blocks it. Jackson blocks it the next time off of Reese. And Phelps touched it last. 2 blocks, one by Weber and one by Jackson.
Now, Jim, there's the strategy. And what Eric Montross has to realize here, Juwan Howard will play him straight up. Chris Weber is going to shield him coming over to trap and double team him down in low. The pass will be available to whoever Weber's guarding. That's George Lynch.
Michigan let Jimmy King bring it into the front court. Jalen Rose now driving on Williams. Lynch with his 2nd rebound.
There's North Carolina, typically as they do, allow you to drive that baseline. They get weak side help.
Phelps off the glass for the game's first 2.
Phelps had an excellent game against Michigan in Hawaii at 15 points. He doesn't need to score big for them to win, but he has to keep his man honest.
Brian Reese said he could be our MVP and not even score a point. That's how valuable Derek Phelps is to our team.
Montross staying in front of Weber. He'll be looking for the lob.
Howard, position, blocked by Lynch from behind. He has 2 rebounds and a block on 3 Michigan trips.
That was just a smart play. George Lynch timed it perfectly.
At the other end, Montross follows and scores, and he'll shoot 1.
Jim, one of the things that's happening right now for Michigan, they're not playing their own man solidly. They're counting on help from a guy from the weak side to come over for the block. And consequently, as I said, if Weber goes over to help on somebody else's man, his man will be wide open.
Jimmy King fouled him. Montross, such a perfectionist. That's what Dean Smith was talking about to us after the Friday practice. And You know, he had 23 points as we see Eric Riley, the 7-footer, come in for Michigan, replacing Chris Webber. Montross, such a perfectionist. He had 23 points Saturday against Kansas, but said, I missed 5 shots, so I'm not happy. Now look at the top of the screen and watch. They turn off the giant screen here in the Superdome while they shoot free throws. They didn't do that in 82 and 87. It comes back on during game action. And in 82 and 87, the free throw percentages, Billy, looking it up, were in the 60s. Here's Saturday in the mid-70s.
Well, without question, not only is it light, Jim, but it's moving light, and that's what would really affect the shooter. So far, North Carolina really playing uptight in the ball, making the passing very difficult to see an open man inside. Nothing if you go baseline.
Charging on Ray Jackson. Again, it's George Lynch at the defensive end for North Carolina.
Jim, I think the reason, and we'll see again, as I said, North Carolina forces you to go baseline. They count on the end line being another defender for you and always get that weak side help. I think the reason Chris Webber was taken out of the game so quickly, I think he's hyper so much that he's losing sight of what his assignment is. Steve Fisher wants him just to sit for a minute.
Williams, long rebound to Jackson. King ahead.
Nice lead.
King will go against Williams. He's fouled on the way up. I think in the act of shooting, in fact. So 2 free throws for Jimmy King.
And Jim, another thing you have to think about in a championship game with only 1 day rest, which team had the most taken out of them in the previous game? Sometimes you can play so hard, and we know what the answer to that is in terms of what Kentucky did to extend this Michigan team. So far, Michigan a little slow getting started.
King for Michigan's first point.
And I think back to your alma mater, Jim, Houston against Louisville, what I thought was the most physical, maybe the greatest semifinal game as far as athleticism I've ever seen. And it took an awful lot out of that Houston club. Here's Webber right back. They settled him down. And see if he doesn't change his philosophy defensively now, play a little more solid on his man. Nice move by Steve Fisher early. Just want to get Chris Webber's head on straight. Almost 5. He got 5. Nice defense by Jimmy King.
Talk about the defense, Billy. Jimmy King played on Saturday against Travis Ford in Kentucky.
Well, the thing that was so amazing is that you could see Travis Ford early on in that first half. He only got off 2 shots, and early on he was just totally frustrated because King shadowed him so well. And here you can see Lynch making the pass to the post so tough.
Jalen Rose gives it up last minute. Webber underneath for the first field goal for the Wolverines.
And he looks down Eric Montross as if to say that's the first of many. Montross tries to ignore him, but he certainly got the effect. Can't let him get that open inside. Both are great finishers in the low post. Two great defensive clubs here.
Reese, Webber was on him, back to Montross. And a foul called against Ray Jackson.
Jimmy, see Chris Webber down inside. Now, he had a great game, of course, against the University of Kentucky, but he did likewise against North Carolina the first time. 35 minutes played. He was 10 for 17. He had 27 points, 8 rebounds, 5 blocks. Just a monster game.
And that is the second foul against Ray Jackson. Angry because he knows he must sit now. Rob Pelinka replaces him. Rob Pelinka, the senior from Lake Bluff, Illinois, a member of the '89 championship team for Michigan.
The only member, huh?
The only active member. Riley and Voskuhl were redshirted that year. Correct? They got to make the trip with the team to the White House and meet the president.
Similar to Rex Walters from Kansas the other day. Got a chance to work out with a team, but not an official member.
Yeah, 91.
Yeah.
Paid his own way and had to pay his own way.
Right. Now look for a trap on this dribble. Here it comes, all the way across the court by Williams.
Oh, he threw it away over the head of King.
Now, Jim, absolutely cardinal rule when you play North Carolina. When you cross half court, you must keep your dribble alive. By not keeping the dribble alive, it invites the trap. No place for Rose to go because he couldn't penetrate. trouble.
Montross blocked by Weber, his second of the night. Into the hands of Reese, and a blocking foul called on Weber.
Great effort by Weber, but he just couldn't get there in time. He has really settled down now, playing solid defense. Look at how well he times that jump against the 7-footer.
That's the first on Weber and the 4th team foul against Michigan. Carolina inbounds underneath.
And Jim, North Carolina is incredible how they can get the foul line. Back screen for George Lynch. Juwan Howard looks around and says, somebody talk to me. And he's still talking to Rob Pelinka. Now see, that time Jalen kept his dribble alive.
9-4 North Carolina. Rose, too strong off the glass. Montross secures.
The difference is that Jalen got those off against Kentucky, those run-and one-handers. It's not happening against the size of North Carolina.
Carolina turns it over. A whistle under 16 minutes. And look one more time at the lob to Lynch. Carolina has held Michigan to only 1 field goal in the early going. 5, Billy, and the Tar Heels controlling the rebounding right now.
Well, they really are. 8 rebounds to 2. They out-rebounded Michigan in the first game, and so far in the NCAA tournament, Jim, they have out-rebounded their opponents by 10 a game. But they haven't played an opponent that can get on the boards like Michigan. Michigan a little slow coming out, though, Jim. Not the same foot speed and intensity they had against Kentucky. But it's so early. Michigan picks their offense up higher now. A 1-4 set. They're looking for a back screen and a lob out of this.
Pelinka, three-pointer. They didn't make one against Kentucky. That's their first of this Final Four. Rob Pelinka.
Well, that wipes out one of our 4 keys to the game. They've got to make a 3, so one of those is now done.
Lynch fires it to Phelps.
Nice cross-court. Good help by Weber.
Lynch on the baseline.
Oh, good block out by Jimmy King. Montross couldn't get to the ball.
4 on 2. Weber back to King, over to Rose. Pelinka sets up for another 3. In a row. Rob Pelinka, and that's why Steve Fisher says he's become our top perimeter sub.
Jim, that's why Steve Fisher is 17-2 in the NCAA tournament. I mean, he pulled the trigger quickly to get Pelinka in there, set him up for some shots.
And Michigan has the lead. Sullivan thought about it. Williams will take it.
Good follow through, but nothing there. 5 men down in the lane for Michigan, and they still can't get the rebound.
Rebound to Jimmy King. 10-9 Michigan.
Those threes changed the tenor of the game. You can see a little worried look on a North Carolina player's face.
Jalen Rose.
3 in a row. 9 straight points on 3. That'll turn it around. You don't have to get rebounds. You make those. Montross down low. There's a triple team on him.
Hook too strong. King with the rebound. Pelinka.
Good passing.
Howard with a 2. Weber kicks it back out.
He's so unselfish when he gets the ball inside. Excellent passer.
The last 3 trips, 9 points. Weber driving. No contact, or no foul on the contact. And score the bucket for Chris Weber.
North Carolina totally out of sync right now. See if they get back to their offense. Donald Williams has not gotten on track. There's a switch by Rose. Leaves Williams open.
Williams to Montross. Missed the dunk. Oh, no, it falls in anyway. Breaks the 11-point run by the Wolverines.
That was really a breakdown by Michigan, Jim, because Rose didn't aggressively make the switch, so that allowed Williams just to have a head start.
Pelinka.
Good fake.
Puts it up. Too strong. Weber.
That's going to count.
Dragged to the floor.
That was George Lynch, one of the strongest forwards in college basketball, who had Weber right around the shoulder, and Weber was so strong, he was able to take it right up, and now Jalen and he are just going at it. That's called the lecture. You can watch it right here. I thought that Pelinka got fouled, but watch the strength that Weber has, being pulled to the floor and still softly put it up on the board. There was the contact inside.
Weber.
There's Lynch pulling him down, and he still put it up.
Weber gets 2 for the basket. Does Lynch get 2 for the takedown?
Well called. This is a tremendous run by Michigan, doing it on the offensive end of the floor. And that Well, I thought Howard was going to get a cheap one, and now Steve Fisher, another very crafty move, realizing he doesn't want Chris Webber in any foul trouble, brings Riley in there with a lead. Up 7, he'll rest his big guy for a while.
Webber goes out with 7 points, 14-2 run in the last 3 minutes for Michigan.
And Jim, keep up with that. Who plays the most time? See, the other thing Steve Fisher got out of this is Eric Montross needed a rest. I think he feels that Riley can beat Salvador.
Ooh, the whistle takes away the fast break for the Wolverines. They call a reach-in on Jimmy King. And that's his second. 2 on King, 2 on Jackson.
In that matchup, Riley and Salvador. In the first game, Riley played 17 minutes, had 7 points, 4 rebounds, 2 blocks. Salvadori played 10 minutes, didn't score, didn't get a rebound, and had 5 fouls. So Steve Fisher has to feel comfortable that he can get the better of this matchup while Montross and Webber are out.
Henrik Rodel in for North Carolina. Number 5, out of bounds off Michigan.
I haven't seen North Carolina this confused on the offensive end of the floor in a while. Those 3-point shots took away a lot of concentration.
Reese driving on Rose.
Great penetrating move. Made all East Regional. Did Reese?
Howard. Yes, score the basket.
The Salvadori's problem against a Michigan, as opposed to, let's say, a Rhode Island, where he was very effective off the bench, is the Michigan players have his size, but they have so much more strength. Normally, when he comes in off the bench, he's playing against maybe a 6'7" player, and at 7 feet, he can get by with. But watch here. He doesn't even phase Juwan Howard. He puts his hand in, and Howard's just too strong for him. Steve Fisher going with the seniors, huh? Look at this. Talley coming in.
Michael Talley coming in. But you see the senior for Carolina first. Lynch returning. Lynch for Sullivan and Talley for King. Michael Talley for Jimmy King. Talley was the second leading scorer on this team the year before the Fab Five arrived, and 2-time Mr. Basketball in the state of Michigan. And a 3-point play for Juwan Howard.
Michigan shot very well, and it probably was the real difference in addition to Mashburn fouling out in the Kentucky game. Michigan did very well from the free throw line, a team that normally only shoots at 65%.
3 seniors from Michigan on the floor. Reese drives by Rose.
Second time he's beaten his man.
Riley with the rebound, snaps it over to Rose.
Good pass. Oh, great steal.
Rodel read it over to Phelps. Tried to bounce it back. Riley read it.
Michigan's got the numbers, 3-on-1.
Howard will challenge Salvadori. And that's a 10-point lead for Michigan.
I think that North Carolina, Dean Smith is pushing up, but I think they need a timeout badly. Now, probably counting on a TV timeout. But really, this team totally out of sync.
Next whistle, there will be a television timeout.
And he tries to save him.
Spin move.
Getting nothing inside. Here's
Salvadori. There's the whistle. Salvadori makes the second free throw. Carolina will get its timeout. Television timeout, that is. And Salvadori coming up with a big offensive rebound here, Billy.
Very good, but he can't finish it off on the inside. So many bodies, and you can see that strength.
Webber in for Juwan Howard.
And Montross will be coming right back in to counter that for Salvadori.
Salvadori, who arrived at North Carolina as a 6'10", 205-pound freshman. Remember him talking to us about eating 6 meals a day, grocery bill costing $350 a month.
And still couldn't put the weight on. There's so many of us in America like to know his formula for keeping it off.
2 free throws cuts the deficit to 8, but Michigan leads it 23-15. Tell the story. In North Carolina, outside of the lane, only 1 out of 11 from the floor.
And Jim, we talked about North Carolina shooting over 52% in the tournament. Something would have to give. Michigan was holding its opponents down to 38%. And so far, North Carolina out of sync. They go to the zone for the first time. 2-3 zone, Montross in the middle. Lynch will run the baseline out of it, so it moves sometimes into a 1-3-1 look.
Stolen right out of the hands of Riley. Stolen by Lynch.
They're high-low, not as effective with Riley in there as Howard, because Howard has those strong hands.
Lynch left wide open. North Carolina has brought in number 24, Dante Calabria.
Looks like both coaches trying to rest as many guys as they can early to have it ready for the second half. First time they played, Michigan led at halftime.
You know, Billy, as many Michigan games as we've called the last 2 years, we've never seen the 3 seniors on the floor right now on the floor for this duration.
No, and particularly not in the first half of the game. They didn't even play this much in the first half of the game in Hawaii early in the year.
Weber got it to go, plus a foul.
How about threading that needle for Jalen Rose? Against the zone, and I thought Juwan Howard made a very good point today when he talked about Carolina's zone, and they said if they go zone, we will have to get the ball inside, counter to what a lot of people say. If you have a go against the zone, you've got to be a perimeter team. They think inside first.
Second on Lynch. Juwan Howard back in for Michigan. Weber in his matchup with Mashburn the other day, they were talking a great deal during the game, and Chris talked about that as far as what the dialogue was, and he said, I kept talking to Mashburn about when he comes into town next year, when he's playing in the NBA and he's playing the Pistons, will he get me some tickets? Which, of course, gives you the indication that maybe he'll be back next year.
Sounds like a hint.
Not his best-looking free throw either, was it?
No, it wasn't, but he's not a good free throw shooter. Montross, there he goes with a left-hand shot. Weber doing a great job forcing him to step out.
Howard's pass picked off by Phelps. They'll challenge Howard, and they say that Howard pushed him with the body.
Well, what North Carolina is doing is certainly getting to the foul line an awful lot, but that's not unusual for them. They have made 249 more free throws than their opponents and shot 324 more than their opponents.
Salvadori returns for Montross. That was the second on Howard. So 2 on Howard, Jackson, and King on the Michigan side. 2 on Lynch for North Carolina.
Real chess match in regard to the big guys. Montross having the better of it so far, and it's the second time Dean Smith has, Weber having the best of it, second time that Montross has been taken out.
Phelps said when he was a freshman and they went to the '91 Final Four, he was all excited. It was fun and games, but it's been all business this week. Salvadori goes down the offensive board.
Well, pump fake by Reese. Good hit inside.
Spots Lynch.
So we talked about the blue-collar guy. 1,500 points. His career, he's just tremendous. Second leading rebounder all time for North Carolina.
Pelinka. Oh, we finally missed one, Billy. Made his first 2.
Looked good, though, didn't it? Right on the mark. Another good rebound by Salvadori. Both ends of the floor.
Lynch doubled up. Had to just throw it toward the basket. Pelinka underneath for Michigan.
Jim, I've said it a lot of times, but I think Steve Fisher is teaching the double down from the weak side better than anybody in the United States on the college level. Paid off again for him. Man-to-man now. Phelps is stuck. Now Williams is stuck with Howard. Surprised they don't get him down low somehow. Bad matchup. There he is in a good steal.
Talley's pass picked off, trying to go inside to Howard. Phelps over to Reese. Nice drive.
That's Weber on a touch foul.
And that's Weber's second.
Touch foul. Great move on the inside that time by Reese. George Lynch lifted up his hand, the tired signal. Well, watch this great cutover move, bouncing up, and Weber just touched him. You know, I said early, maybe Kentucky took a lot out of Michigan. That's the way it looked the first few minutes. But, you know, now North Carolina's substituting very liberally.
Both teams, King for Talley. And Lynch resting for North Carolina.
Jim,
Ryan Reese with 2.
The great traditions of these two schools, it's hard to believe they've only played 4 times. And we think back of one of those wins. Michigan's won the last 2, but the one they won before the Rainbow Classic in the Southeast Regional, which propelled them on to the Final Four where they won their championship. North Carolina had won the first 2 meetings.
That was in the regional semifinals. That's right. When Steve was the interim coach, and he told me yesterday that was his most important win. He said, once I got that one, that put me over the hump. He was uncertain whether he would get the full-time call.
Well, it was funny to hear him introduced in his 4th season. And here he's been to the Final Four over that 5-year period. But I guess they say that first year he didn't coach a full season, which he didn't.
Just coached 6 games.
Yeah, 6-0. 6 pretty good ones and big ones.
By the way, he said his second most important win was the first one against Xavier in the first round. It was a struggle. He said, if I don't win that one, I don't get the job, for sure.
Well, Pete Gillen gives a lot of people trouble in that first round. He's a guy that certainly has done a fine job, and again this year did.
By the way, Fisher going for number 100 tonight.
Trapping defense. Well, Weber gives too big a target for Williams down inside. Weber just eating him up there.
2 players tipped it. Sullivan clears it for Carolina. Carolina has cut a 10-point lead down to 3. Williams can tie it, and does.
Jim, what really set that up is the Michigan backcourt players, Rose and King, drifted back towards half court instead of getting to the foul line for that long rebound.
Rose. Sullivan called on the foul.
There's not a player in college basketball that could have made that catch better than Weber. I mean, as well as Weber. Just incredible hands.
They call them hands. That was such a bullet. I don't know how. He never even.
I don't know how he picked it off.
Bobbled it. Not a bit. Carolina on a 7-0 run. To tie it at 25. Dr. Jim Maloney from Vienna, Virginia. I guess next year he'll be flying over Charlotte. That's the site of the '94 Final Four. Looking ahead 2 years, Seattle.
In this building, he might have had his first indoor basketball game. You could almost get that blimp in here, huh?
It is so immense in here. It has such a different feel than Minneapolis and Indianapolis, the last 2 sites.
Back to the zone is North Carolina. Weber wanting him to reverse the ball and then lob to him inside, but Salvadori and Montross pretty big targets. Backing it down, giving a 3.
King.
Oh, boy. Michigan doing the job with 3s. Didn't make one against Kentucky. What's that, their 4th?
That's their 4th. The city of New Orleans is accustomed to seeing 3-pointers drilled in the Superdome, but they usually come from Morton Anderson.
Well, you know, Jim, you think back, Steve Alford didn't do bad with the 3-pointers the last time he was in here.
7 out of 10.
That's right. Was the record before Williams hit 5 out of 7, as did Rex Walters, the percentage of 3-point shots made. Sullivan did not hesitate on that one.
Drains his first shot.
Well, that's the shot Rick Pitino doesn't like, just inside the 3-point line. North Carolina really picking it up now.
Weber has baseline stuck.
Oh, offensive foul and not called that time. Weber got by with 1.
From the other side, King. Weber.
Great hands again by Weber. It's almost like he's got a magnum in there. That was good help by Sullivan.
Tipped it back out.
2 excellent defensive teams. The best in college basketball this year.
5 count. Now each team has been able to challenge for a 5 count in this half.
Jim, on the year, Michigan holding their opponents to 41% shooting. North Carolina holding their opponents to 41% shooting. They played great schedules and outstanding competition. And I really do think they played the best all-around defense of anybody, and that's probably the reason that they're here.
North Carolina with 4 starters plus Henrik Rodel on the floor.
Riley Montross. I think Montross can score on Riley down low. And look at Weber's not guarding Lynch. He has to keep him occupied.
He's keeping an eye on that Riley Montross matchup. That one's short, long rebound. Weber didn't box out, and Lynch took advantage.
But what Chris Weber's trying to do is guard 2 people. He's trying to help out on Montross almost as his primary responsibility. Lynch too good a player to do that to.
Carolina had regained the lead, 29-28. King gives it up. 3 men around Weber.
Oh, Lynch, another great rebound.
Rodel from the reverse side.
Again, how many times have we seen it? Rodel, the German Olympian, used that rim to shield the defender.
The only Olympian on the floor tonight, although 2 players helped train the U.S. Olympians, and here's a steal by Lynch.
I think he'll take it against Weber.
Awkward shot, rebound to King, and Phelps picks his pocket. Some nifty ball handling, giving it up to Rodel.
In this sequence, all you needed was Montross to throw up a 3 from there. North Carolina really out there to draw some fouls.
Michigan basketball. Juwan Howard will come in for Riley.
That was a frenetic sequence of events right there. Maybe Montross would have been better off taking the 3 at the top of the key.
North Carolina on a 13-3 run. Rose quiets Carolina for the moment. 31-30 Tar Heels.
Jim, Jalen, one of the few guards in the country, because of his size, capable of going on that baseline.
Nice touch by Weber. 2 more subs for Dean Smith's Tar Heels. Salvadori Williams back in.
It is inside, and it did. A great call by the official, because a hard one to see. You can see from the angle he had there, it went right off Weber's, about his rib cage.
So the 2 7-footers in for North Carolina. Salvadori and Montross. They have another one on the bench, and Matt Winstrom. 3-pointer by Williams. And he was well short. Montross ran him over.
Eric couldn't get out of the way, and in that particular case, Williams, realizing that Jalen Rose is the kind of guy that'll turn his head, worked himself free for the 3, but was a little bit out of his range.
First on Montross, 6th team foul. Big 0-0. The first to ever wear that number at North Carolina, although Dean Smith wore that number in high school. Smith, I got a kick out of hearing Dean talk about the difference from the '93 championship game versus when he played in '52 for Kansas when they won the title. He said they only got 2 tickets to the game, and he couldn't find anybody to give them away to. Now you just can't get your hands on enough. 64,000 on hand here at the Superdome this evening.
Good hands again.
King got caught, saved by Weber. Montross with 2 hands taken away by King.
There's the difference. Weber's hands were too strong. Montross got the steal.
Rodels.
Boy, North Carolina doing the job on the boards. Rose on the reach. Jim, something else you talk about 52, of course. Clyde Leveillette was a great star for Kansas. For Kansas at that time. The only guy ever to lead the nation in scoring, and of course, he was the MVP of the Final Four that year. Took him to a championship.
And to win a national championship same season.
And another funny thing happened. B.H. Bourne, the next year, Dean Smith played in the Final Four in '53. B.H. Bourne did not score in the '52 game. Ended up being the most valuable player of the '53, even though he's on a losing team. A lot of history.
Indiana won the next year by a single point.
Right.
Dean, by the way, in the '52 championship game, played 29 seconds, although you might not find his name listed in the box scores. He says, I have the film at home to prove it to you. I played 29 seconds.
Which makes it unique. He and Bobby Knight, the only ones to play and coach in a championship.
That's right, of all time. Carolina by 1.
There's never been a better day to come back to AT&T.
A grade school coach in Herrin, Illinois. His father, Howard, will be inducted in 3 weeks into the Illinois Basketball Hall of Fame. His father passed away this season, December the 16th. His father, a year ago, was the one who suggested it was time for his son to start all 5 freshmen, and this man was the 5th one to get the starting call, Ray Jackson. So Mr. Fisher always had a special interest in Ray Jackson, and the night he passed away in the hospital, Michigan played Iowa State, won the game. He was told about the victory, then asked, how did Ray play? And when informed he had his best game as a Wolverine, he said, I knew it. He then died. Those were his last words, Billy. Turnover against Michigan. To go in the first half.
Look at Montross, the difference when he's down there with Riley as opposed to Weber, just pushing him out of the way. Great leaner by Williams. You know, I don't think that that's a good matchup for Steve Fisher when he puts Jalen Rose on Williams. He doesn't concentrate enough, and Williams is using him a little bit by taking him inside and then running around. Jalen likes to turn his head. That'll get him in trouble. So a big difference between Jimmy King and Ray Jackson guarding Williams and Jalen Rose.
That foul was against Reese. his first, the 7th against North Carolina. So it's a 1-1. What do you think of the pace of the first half, Billy? Do you get a feeling that the coaches realize that it might be a first half standoff and 20 minutes for the championship in the second?
Well, Jim, I would agree completely. I think both guys are playing this first half, get it over with, try to be as close to even as possible. And the reason I say that, you can tell the substitution patterns are not anything like we've seen from these teams going down the stretch. I mean, we had, as you said, the 3 seniors on the game for Michigan early on. Montross in and out. Lynch in and out.
An official's whistle. They wanted to just clear a sub, an earlier sub. So it's a 1-point North Carolina lead.
There's Jalen Rose. He's got to concentrate on where Williams is. Doing a better job on this sequence. But I think North Carolina wants to lose it. There he is.
Montross.
There's that double down.
Reese.
He's going to try to get it up with that left hand. Oh, how about that? You knew he had his mindset. I stuck down in low, but I'm going to get it off, and he's laughing. Jalen Rose sees the player kind of mimic him for a while, not on purpose. I think Reese just kind of surprised he got it off in there.
Now they double up Rose. Finds an open Jackson. Riley.
Great play.
Valuable minutes off the bench for Eric Riley.
But so far, both of those 7-foot subs, Jim, have done an excellent job. Montross knocks Riley down, and this goes to... And Ray Jackson really upset because he feels that Montross got the ball because he knocked Riley to the floor.
And that's number 3 on Ray Jackson.
And Ray, who is such a competitor, went over there to try to help out. You'll see the play. Montross goes down. Boom. There goes Riley down without question a foul. See, Riley doesn't get up, and Jackson saw the play all the way and goes over to try to stop the 7-footer and can't do it. There goes Riley down. Good job by Phelps to realize right away that Eric was open. And Ray Jackson, very big third foul on Ray Jackson in the first half. He has been a supreme player for this Michigan club. They would not be in this game without him, Jim.
The bloodlines of Eric Montross go back to Michigan. John Townsend, his grandfather on his mother's side, an All-America in the 30s. They called him the Houdini of the hardwood when he played at Michigan. And his father also, Montross's father, played at Michigan in the 60s. And now Matt Winstrom, so, yeah, he gets a little playing time in for Eric Montross.
The third 7-footer on this North Carolina team. They go into the 2-3 zone. And there you see Juwan Howard trying to make his presence felt on Wenstrom. But I'll tell you, Wenstrom, pretty good-sized body in there.
Jim Bosco, 32 in the game. Rose, three-pointer rattled out, and Phelps got the rebound underneath.
Now, Polinka on Williams. I still think North Carolina now would like to get Williams some shots. And he's running around. You can see he's running the baseline. Polinka, as opposed to Rhodes, realizes responsibility staying right with him. If a guy will trail that close, though, you ought to be able to set a screen on him. There's the screen, and there's the shot.
Three-point shot. What a pure shooter.
That was Phelps, who recognized what Michigan was doing. A brilliant play on his part. Freed up a teammate.
Michigan, 1 second difference on the shot clock. Riley.
Lindstrom on a great block. Howard knocks Sullivan to the ground. Dangerous pass.
Now will Carolina pull it back for the last shot. Riley had it stripped away. Last touch by Michigan.
And North Carolina will hold for the last shot, and I would say they'll take Williams to the top.
Michigan should have at the other end, Billy.
Yes.
At the conclusion of this championship game, we will select the Chevrolet Players of the Game. In conjunction with the award, Chevrolet will donate $1,000 to the General Scholarship Fund of both schools. Montross comes back in for the final 20 seconds of the first half along with Reese.
Jim, we'll see Donald Williams get this ball to the top of the key, and they'll look to free him on a drive. See if they get him down here. And he is the guy that put North Carolina ahead. So, hey, they used Reese instead.
Phelps, three-point shot.
Not what Dean Smith would have wanted. Not at all. Michigan got a chance.
Yep, still has time. Rose. Yep. Bosco slipped out of his hands on the way up.
That was poor execution by both teams in that last 20 seconds.
Weber did not play the last 3:42 of the first half. They saved them with the 2 fouls. Carolina's lead is its largest of the game. North Carolina 42, Michigan 36. CBS Sports exclusive coverage of the NCAA Basketball Championship will continue after this message and a word from your local station.
CBS Sports coverage of the 1993 NCAA Basketball National Final Game is sponsored by AT&T, the right choice. Last Action Hero, in theaters this summer. And by Pontiac and your nearby Pontiac dealers. We are driving excitement.
Security's at the half. I know where you'd rather be. But any surprises in the first half, Coach?
Yeah, Pat. I expected it to be more of a possession-per-possession game. This is a game of runs. Some unbelievable runs that have been set up by some tremendous defensive play by both teams.
Mike, let's go back to what you talked about at the top of the show. Michigan was going to have to double down on Montross. They did that effectively, and that did help them get into an offensive rhythm.
Right. We're going to go to the telestrator right here. Carolina likes to start Montross on one side of the court. We have the ball here. It'll go here, but then it eventually goes to the other side. Watch how Montross now goes across the lane. They get in a great position to feed him. Now when he gets it, though, look at these 2 Michigan players. They're doubling Montross right here. Now when he takes the shot, he misses, and Michigan gets the offensive board. They're in a good flow going down the court. They got an open shot there, open shot here. Here's their third open shot, and they take it. Now they get the rebound, they get it back out, and watch what happens now when Weber gets the ball. Right now, Weber has the ball. Montross on defense, but look at this open space in here. The defense is spread, and it gives Weber an opportunity to drive on Montross. Makes a good drive and a great shot and scores, and that flow really helped Michigan get back in the ball game.
Speaking of getting back in the ball game, looking to the second half, it looks to me like Michigan's a very tired ball club. Carolina looks fresher. I know Fisher learned something last year coaching against you. Will it help, though?
Well, last year in the last 7 minutes of our ball game, both teams were tired, but they were young and tired. We were old and tired. We knew how to play tired. I think Steve is trying to conserve some energy and make sure his kids are fresh down the stretch.
All right, Jalen Rose also on Donald Williams, a big surprise to me as well in the first half.
Right, Coach, JB, it's been hard to believe. It's been exactly a decade and a day since Houston and North Carolina State met for the national title down in Albuquerque. Houston, a heavy favorite, boasted such stars as Clyde the Glide Drexler and Akeem the Dream Olajuwon and their fraternity brothers of Phi Slamma Jamma. North Carolina State, by contrast, were a gutsy group of overachievers led by a charismatic young coach who read history and then proceeded to make it.
We talk all year about being in a position to win. If you're in a position to win, you have a shot at winning, and that's all we wanted.
To get in that winning position took luck. But just when NC State was on the ropes, trailing in the second half, Houston tried to run the clock down with a stall on offense. The slowdown gave the Wolfpack a second wind.
Well, as I look back, if I had to do it all over, I'd do the same thing. Actually, it wasn't a stall. We did that all year. I mean, we did that when we were up by 20 or whatever.
Jim Valvano then ordered NC State to foul intentionally to put Houston, a 4-foul shooting team, on the line.
Michael Young 0 for 3 from the line, 0 for 4, and now a chance to cut it to 2.
And soon the game was tied, and NC State had the ball, holding for the last shot.
Down to 14 seconds. Oh, almost stolen by Drexler. Boy, is he good at that. They've got to drive to the basket. It's down to 7 seconds. You can see the time. Wittenberg. Oh, that's a long ways. They won it. On the dunk.
it's even more special now that it's 10 years later, and that you can appreciate that everybody on that NC State team is a part of history.
It is 10 years later, and Jim Valvano and his wife Pam returned to the NC State campus to a standing ovation to a reunion of his old team, but behind the smiles are tears, for in June, Coach V was diagnosed with cancer, and it's bad. And that's why the basketball crowd gathered in New Orleans this past Friday night to help raise money for the Jimmy V Foundation to further cancer research. Jim was not able to attend, but his words from a month ago were heard loud and clear.
I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. Cancer can take away all my physical abilities. It cannot touch my mind, it cannot touch my heart, and it cannot touch my soul. And those three things are going to carry on forever. I thank you, and God bless you all.
After that speech, they helped the coach off the stage, and as memories of that championship season, that wonderful last-second win against Houston grow dimmer, what will be remembered with a smile is Jim Valvano's mad scramble to hug a player, any player, every player, and a realization of how perceptive our poets are. You know, that night Jimmy was looking for a player to hug, and tonight I think we all want to hug him. John F. Kennedy said it right. He said, life is unfair. God love you, Jimmy. You know, we received a message tonight from Coach Valvano, resting at home in North Carolina, who thanks you all for your prayers, and he adds he's watching the game with great interest. This is indeed a night he'd want us to focus on the game, and that's what we're going to do next. Enjoy the second half, Coach.
CBS Sports presents Prudential Securities at the Hash. Sponsored by Prudential Securities. The most important thing we earn is your trust.
A clear night in the Crescent City, providing the aerial views of New Orleans. The Goodyear blimp Stars and Stripes from Pompano Beach, Florida. North Carolina leads it 42-36. Eric Montross with 9 points. But, Billy, let's take a look at Michigan's shot chart from Saturday against Kentucky.
Well, as you can see, Michigan never scored a point beyond 3. First time in Final Four history a team won without scoring a 3-point shot. But then tonight, when they were staggering along early in the first half, along came excellent perimeter shooting by Michigan. As you can see, they hit 4 threes on their way to a 19-4 run. Rose with 1, King with 1, Pelinka with 1, and that was the difference on that great run. They got away from it later.
Tar Heels running back to the floor. 20 minutes remain in the national championship game. And we'll return to the Louisiana Superdome after this message. And a word from your local station. You're watching CBS Sports exclusive coverage of the NCAA Basketball Championship.
CBS Sports coverage of the 1993 NCAA Basketball National Final Game is sponsored by Oldsmobile, official car for NCAA championships. Coca-Cola Classic, always courtside, always Coca-Cola. And by the people of Nike, who encourage you to just do it.
Superdome, where the Battle of New Orleans is being waged inside. The Michigan coaches are very disappointed that they let a 10-point lead slip by allowing Carolina inside baskets and second shots. They want to do 2 things. They want to do a better job outside on Williams. He hit 2 big threes there. And they also want to take better care of the ball. Michigan had 10 turnovers. The Carolina coaches are happy. They'd like Williams to get even more involved. Jim?
All right, thank you, Leslie. And Billy, let's have a little midterm exam. Let's check the papers from before the game. You have 4 points, your game analysis, and see how they've held up so far in this game.
Well, a couple of things I think are important. As we said, the blue-collar special. I think that Lynch has had the better of these two right now. He's got 8 and 6, but Howard a solid game as well. 0 threes, and I said that Michigan could not win without making a three. They came out, and their great run that they had, 19-4, was predicated on hitting 4 threes. Williams' shadow. What has happened in this particular case? Jalen Rose has turned his head some on him, and Williams has hurt him. Williams off to a pretty good start. And the 7-foot subs, both have done a very adequate job in there so far. Raleigh with 2 and Salvadori 2, but they gave very valuable minutes when Montross was out and when Weber was on. So I think that that obviously is a standoff. But the one thing I also mentioned, Jim, is the team that can have Montross or Weber play the most minutes would win. As far as the first half is concerned, that goes to Montross. He's played 2 more minutes than has Weber. Let's see if the legs come out a little quicker, and also if the coaches stop substituting quickly here in the second half.
Montross with a soft what a touch. You know, the numbers for the 2 guys inside almost identical in the first half, just the 2-minute difference in playing time, as you mentioned, but each had 9 points, 3 rebounds in the opening half. And Weber answers at the other end.
Jim, I think the stats are one thing, but the reason I think minutes are so important is because that sets the tempo as to how these teams play. They become such big factors in terms of the offensive defensive strategy.
King leaning.
And Weber is the guy. That was a brilliant play on his part. He realized that King was going to be covered by somebody in the weak side, and he sealed him by setting a screen to give Jimmy King the opening. Smart play. Great hands, great head.
Reese.
Oh, good steal by
Jackson. With the 3 fouls, he stole it anyway. Rose.
Oh, what a shot, huh?
And the follow by Howard. Oh, a missed opportunity underneath. And who else but George Lynch battles for the rebound.
There's that blue collar again. Michigan really missed a great opportunity there with a 3-on-1 situation.
Montross. Reese on the follow.
And again, if you're going to double down, everybody's got to help out. Weber can't guard 2 men.
King spotted for the 3. Reese really kept that alive after the King miss. Tipping it out. Carolina at the other end.
See, there was that weak side help by Jackson, but Reese was so far out here, Jim, he wasn't in a position to take the shot on the pass back. Boy, they're really going down on Weber, aren't they?
It's pretty obvious what they talked about at halftime.
And they're going to make him work.
13 points for Montross. The other end, Lynch comes around, makes the steal. No, on the end line.
Ray Jackson telegraphed that pass. Well, for Dean Smith, he makes the answer quickly. He's going to the bench early, and there is Lynch. Number 2 man in regard to steals on a given year behind Dudley Bradley, who he probably can't catch, but the number 1 man in steals all time for North Carolina.
Rodel, Sullivan, Salvadori, Winstrom.
Now Steve Fisher has to look out there, Jim, and say, okay, Dean Smith is going early. How long can I let Weber stay out here and not get tired with Montross coming back fresh?
The only starter on the floor for North Carolina is Derek Phelps.
And North Carolina in the zone, just trying to force Michigan maybe to take something outside to gain some valuable minutes of energy.
Rose.
Nice shot.
7 points for Rose.
Jalen, as we mentioned in the first game, had a big scoring game against North Carolina. And there was a case, Rose on a very foolish foul. He didn't want to give the effort to move his feet and try to hold up Rodel with his arm.
That's the second on Rose. Where does North Carolina turn for its points with this group on the floor?
What they'll do is just constantly run their motion offense. They just try to make Michigan play a lot of defense. I think Mike Krzyzewski talked about each possession being something. He's going in, trying to draw a foul.
Lindstrom has it stripped by Weber. Rodel. A near steal.
Rodel this year, Jim, probably in one of the great comebacks of the season in college basketball, was the man that got it started when Florida State had the great game at Chapel Hill. Rodel hitting outside shots. turned it around for North Carolina. They came from 20-plus points down.
21.
Back for the win. Right, 21
with
down.
9 minutes to go. Not only one of the greats of this season of all time.
Yep.
21 with 9 to go.
Well,
so Montross comes back in. So does Donald Williams, as Phelps sits along with Wenstrup.
And you can see Steve Fisher's brain moving a little bit to say, all right, if they're going to do this, I've got to go ahead and give Chris Webber a little bit of a break.
Lynch saw the lob pass coming in and defended. The Louisiana Superdome. Championship night. Jim Nance along with Billy Packer courtside. North Carolina a moment ago had its largest lead of 8. And Michigan has cut it now to 4.
That time when North Carolina tried to trap out of their zone, everybody extended outward, and that allowed Webber to be wide open.
Donald Williams.
His follow-through in the last 2 games, of course, in this entire NCAA tournament, has been sensational, averaging almost 19 a game in the tournament.
Juwan Howard over to King. Good adjustment in midair.
And here you have Michigan going right down inside, answering what North Carolina wants to do. Montross feeling that double team pressure, passing the ball out quickly.
Sullivan. Oh, I think Webber's hurt.
I think he got hit trying to reach in there with a shoulder right in the head. Of course, we know that he had his nose broken earlier this year by Riley in practice. Let's see what happens here. There it was. The hand came right in there. Chris is still down.
The timeout under 16 minutes, the television timeout. We'll be right back. Chris Webber poked in the eye.
Well, he got it right there going down. The young man in a great deal of pain during that timeout. You can see him over there. Family watching on, obviously very apprehensive. This guy is the ultimate competitor. He's not going to sit over there unless he's really hurt.
He's been replaced at the moment by Eric Riley.
A lot of pushing going on down in low.
Williams, wow, he is so shooter.
There's a guy who was a fair shooter.
Another man with a bald pate.
Only man in the history of this tournament to be the MVP and play on 3 championship teams in his career. Never lost in the Final Four.
The other end, Jackson. That's a 2.
Jim, something interesting. We talk about the great sophomore players, the 5 sophs now. Kareem played as a sophomore with 4 other sophomores on his team.
It's a traveling call. Not only is Kareem here, but the middle of your screen, Isaiah Thomas.
Had a pretty good Final Four, and he calls a timeout. Michigan gets it. Excellent job by North Carolina to double team.
They had doubled up Rose, and Howard had to burn a timeout. Carolina by 5.
Poked in the right eye, and the trainer Dennis Ralston put some solution in it. He said, how are you feeling? Webber said, fine. He's back. Jim?
All right, Leslie, back to the starting 5, in fact, for Michigan. Rose, there's that lane. Yep. So tough on that shot.
He is, because it's 6'8". You just can't go to him. He's got great body control, slides through, and is willing to go ahead and glide with that shot. Got to pivot out there. There's Webber. What a steal.
Foot race. Webber with Williams behind him. Forget it.
And that should have been a technical foul. I do not understand that call, Jim. Guy hangs on the rim. He's not in any danger. It has not been called all year. It'll be the #1 thing I think we'll see enforced next year in college basketball. The refs have not done a good job with it at all.
Another steal? Almost. North Carolina basketball.
It's a great play by Webber. We talk about his great hands. Look at this. Boom. Gets the steal, and off he goes, turns around. A big man who can put it on the floor. Maybe not as well as Mashburn, but pretty close. Now watch him hanging on the rim. Without question, that's a technical foul. Would have been a huge call. He had a technical foul in the first North Carolina game. That one had nothing to do with hanging on the rim, just a little talk.
Carolina game was his high point game of the season until it was matched. I guess it still remains that way, but it was matched against Kentucky. 27 points in that victory.
Pretty nice job by Jackson, though. I don't think he picked up the foul, but Montross had an easy put away there.
See who gets whistled for this one.
Weber's calling off all of his players in. Jackson, did he get the foul?
It's on Jackson.
That's his fourth.
Yep.
Weber actually could have had one, but Ray Jackson prevented an easy two. We talked about this young man really being the guy that got Michigan going in the early rounds with 38 points in his first 2 games. 19 in the first game was the first time he led the team in scoring all year.
That was his career high, and then he matched it against UCLA. 2 shots for Montross. By the way, Rob Pelinka, number 3. There he is. He knocked down a couple of threes in the first half, and he replaces Ray Jackson. Montross said, "I don't settle for second place." He was talking about what a perfectionist that he is.
North Carolina surprisingly got by with a little press and caused a timeout to be called by Michigan. I thought they'd go to it again on the made free throw.
Weber, reach in, called against Lynch.
Yeah, Lynch coming over from the weak side. Just had too far to go, though, Jim. As Mike Krzyzewski pointed out on the telestrator before the game, if you're going to help from the weak side or you're going to double down, if your spacing is too far away, you get there just in time, not for the steal, but to go ahead and commit the foul. And that's what happened on that play.
And that's the 3rd on Lynch.
And I'm surprised Dean Smith isn't thinking about taking Lynch out. He certainly wants him on the game down the wire with his experience.
Michigan has made its last 6 shots.
Good.
This one blocked by Montross.
Should have the numbers for Montross. They can't get him the ball. Good hustle by Howard.
3-point shot by Rodel. Weber has position. Snaps it out to Rose.
Neither team can get the run here in the second half like they did in the first half. And you think somebody will, don't you?
North Carolina had an 8-point lead. It's been reduced to 2. Weber.
Oh, the second time tonight he almost made the great play.
And twice now. Twice Howard has tried to follow up an easy one and missed a chippy.
And George Lynch has got to come out. He's been hit in the abdomen.
That's just a matter of losing your balance in desperation effort.
And without question, North Carolina hit it out.
This side, go.
Game getting very physical down in low now.
Lynch goes out with 9 rebounds.
Got hit right in the gut.
The last touch by Carolina.
Pelinka looks like he wants the shot, Jim. You know, he's looking for openings. 2-3 zone.
King short. Salvadori stuck but finds Rodel.
Nice pass by Salvadori that time.
Sullivan. Weber with the hands.
Oh, just a vacuum cleaner in there. You know, whoop, that's my ball. Out of the way. North Carolina has not been able to convert for a while. Michigan, however, hadn't been able to take advantage of it.
And this is their 3rd chance to tie or take the lead.
Is that Montross on that reach? Or Sullivan?
Well, he's eyeing both of the players.
I think it's going to be on Montross.
It is his second.
That's one of the things that's tough. When you take a big man out, without question, hit him with his body. You take a big man out, he's got to move his feet on that double team. Very susceptible to picking up the foul.
Donald Williams, who had 25 against Kansas, he's back in. Montross with his second.
Many times, Jim, you get a team down and then you go into a lull offensively and don't build on that lead. Gives a great deal of confidence to the other club. Some minutes here that Michigan has picked up some valuable points.
Weber over Montross, in and out. Montross secures the rebound.
Thought he got fouled.
Phelps knocked down his own player, Salvadori, and penetrates for the 2.
He loves that move. He uses his own player as a screener while he's dribbling.
Weber knocks him to the floor, score the basket. Williams fell, but no foul.
Good no call there.
17 for Weber.
No advantage gained by the offensive player on that contact. Oh, there's a foul. And Weber saying they're pushing me on the other end. You see Weber right here. You can see he gains no advantage on this play. Donald Williams just falls down when he met a little bit of contact. Good finish by Chris Weber.
That foul was not on Weber. It was called against Riley, his first. Ryan Reese back for the Tar Heels. Sullivan out. Juwan Howard.
You know, Jim, both coaches wanting to have liberal substitution patterns in this game, but what it has done, it's taken away the offensive flow of the game because they're playing with a lot of combinations that they're not used to in this kind of a game. So I think it's taken away the offensive flow and probably hurt a team from making this nice run in the second half.
2 shots for Montross.
Pinch that one off.
Wearing a haircut like the one his father wore when he played for Michigan back in the 60s. His father came up with the idea, let's make a bet. If you get a haircut, I'll do it too. And Eric said, I ended up being the first one in the chair. My father walked out of the barber shop. Never followed up on the bet. And that was Scott you saw in the stands.
North Carolina been sitting on this 2-point lead for a while. Steve Fisher calling out set play. High-low post.
King for the lead. Weber almost bumped into Phelps. Tipped it instead over to Pelinka. And Michigan resets.
Probably got by with one there.
Phelps, I think so.
You know, Phelps would have been better not trying to get the ball. Just draw the foul on Weber. Oh, nice pass, but behind him. Good idea. Poor execution.
Salvadori subs Montross.
Jim, both teams very tight offensively. Now, you notice there's really no flow in the shot. The guys that you'd like to be taking it right now, as an example, Donald Williams have not touched the ball. Jimmy King's on it pretty well.
North Carolina's made only 1 field goal in the last 5 minutes, 10 seconds. And that was the penetrating bucket by Phelps.
Cross-court passing now.
Phelps had it stolen. Jimmy King. There'll be no stopping him. The game is tied.
Some slam by King. Great vertical leap.
I thought for a second he might have left too early, but I guess you don't have to worry about that with Jimmy King. He can really sky. The game tied at 56.
I really think that Reese is a guy, Jim, with Pelinka on him who could score against Pelinka down inside. He's got some size on him. They just can't get him the ball.
Lynch, jumper. North Carolina back in front.
A veteran. Salvadori slow getting down court. Allowed Weber to get in good position.
Double team on Rose.
So great to have big men that can pass like Juwan Howard.
Weber, nifty move.
Montross getting a long rest here by Dean Smith.
Action starting to perk up. 58-58.
Brian Reese is being used as a passer here. He can't get in position where he's an offensive scorer.
Williams, one-hander.
Tough shot.
Howard had it for a moment.
Pelinka on the back makes the pass. Lucky he was not out of bounds there. Senior's playing a solid game off the bench. There's that passing.
Michigan is in front, 60-58.
There's the high-low that Steve Fisher has been calling for.
They were 8 down in this half, the Wolverines, 48-40 at the time, now 60-58. Lynch somehow got the pass to Phelps. Reese.
Jordan. With Montross out of the game, North Carolina really not having their primary offensive threat. They're taking a lot of strange shots.
Michigan looking very confident now. Palinka passes it up, gives it to Rose instead. Weber, easy rebound, but threw it up way too hard.
North Carolina's not been able to push it up. That's the shot Williams loves.
And he puts the Tar Heels ahead by 1.
Jim Williams has done the job down the stretch. Scored the last 9 against Arkansas. 2 threes, broke the back of Cincinnati.
Huge three against Kansas, too.
Yes, a monster in the semifinals. There's that high-low again Steve Fisher wants. Nice defense.
Howard.
First he makes the pass on the lob on that high-low offense. Steve Fisher's got something he's real comfortable with, particularly with Montross on the sidelines.
Timeout called by North Carolina. There was a television timeout coming on the next whistle, but a long stretch of hot shooting and fast action. And Michigan by 1.
You are watching the NCAA Basketball Championship on CBS.
Ebb and flow of this game interesting. Michigan had a 10-point lead at one point in the first half. Carolina 8 in the second half. 8 overall lead changes. Weber with 21 points, 9 rebounds. Fisher on the sidelines for Michigan.
Jim, one of the things that Steve Fisher found, as did Rick Pitino the other day, he's found an offense that worked, and it worked, of course, with Montross out of the game. This thing may change down. That was that high-low. Here you have Montross in, Weber out.
Scott Cherry in for the first time, number 11 for North Carolina.
Looks like Dean Smith wants to get a couple minutes out of these fellas to get ready to go to the 4-minute mark and get all his starters back in there.
James Bosco back in for Michigan, 32.
So he only has one starter on the floor right now, does North Carolina, and that's Montross. Nothing doing in there with the double team.
Cherry. 5 on the shot clock.
Somebody's got to put it up.
Roto forces it. And a shot clock violation.
See, this was a very calculated move, and I wonder why, in the case of North Carolina, they put all of their scorers down with that timeout, Jim. You know, it's one possession. They had nobody that was really looking for the shot. Now Phelps comes back in, Cherry down. Williams will come back in. Dean Smith tried to get one possession out of it, but I think one down. That was a calculated move that didn't work, and really I don't think had the odds in its favor of working.
Weber back in for Michigan, and Williams we saw also returning for the Tar Heels. 6:06 remaining.
Second time today North Carolina succeeded on coming back with their full court pressure.
Kentucky caught Michigan a couple of times in this situation.
As did GW, remember, in their comeback. One good safe thing. Howard to Weber on both ends of the floor. Just throw it up in the air and they're high-low. Let's see if they go back to it now.
It's anywhere near Weber's hands, it sticks.
Yeah, exactly.
Why he's so much help on breaking a press.
Plus he makes excellent decisions after he catches the ball. Back screen for Jimmy King.
12 on the shot clock. Rose.
This could be a huge shot right here. Huge shot.
That gives Michigan a 4-point lead.
Jim, we're at the 5:24 mark. And of course, that major stat, Michigan 30-0 when they lead at the 5-minute mark.
Rose's 3, a big one.
I think that Dean Smith really needed to get those scoring starters back in the game and gut it out for that last 5 minutes. He had no scoring on the floor. Taking a lot of time here. Sullivan doesn't want the shot.
Williams does, though.
Yep. But we're under 5. Michigan leads. They have not lost a game this year when they have the lead at the 5-minute mark. Big steal.
Sullivan comes up with it. Phelps lost it. Oh, he mishandled it.
If Phelps had not run into Salvador, he had a layup on the other end.
Coming in, Ray Jackson with 4 fouls, and also Lynch and Reese.
Jim, now North Carolina is going to go the rest of the way with those starters out there. Likewise for Michigan. We've got what started and what we talked about at the beginning of the show. Maybe these coaches played the first 20 minutes just to get this point in the game. Everybody should be fresh.
Yep, all 10 starters in the game on the floor.
Michigan going high-low.
King jumper.
Huge shot.
2-point basket. 2-pointer.
And their perimeter game was not much of a factor against Kentucky, but it really has opened up here.
King's coming up big tonight.
Yes, he is.
He has 15, which is second high for the Wolverines behind Weber.
Only had 3 against Kentucky, but remember what his job was. Shield Travis Ford the whole night. She did so well. Now he's got Donald Williams to handle.
Williams.
Oh, is that beautiful.
They never even touched the rim. That brings Carolina within 1. Williams has 21 on the game.
Somebody's got to be open because that was Williams' man and he had no one.
Ron Howard saves it. And Michigan will reset with 3:20 to go. King. Tipped out to Montrose.
That was Lynch. They've got the break.
Carolina can take the lead. Phelps up with it. And down it goes. Carolina leads by 1. Wow, it hung there for what seemed like a full second. 68-67.
Jalen wanted to pass off the dribble to Weber. Good help down inside.
King 3-pointer short. Oh, man. Weber.
Here's North Carolina breaking again.
They've got Reese ahead. Phelps decides to pull it back.
That's why Dean Smith was resting those guys, Jimmy. He wanted them fresh down the wire.
Phelps controlling. Reese says that Phelps is our coach. Smith on the floor.
Now, if you're Jimmy King, you cannot let Williams go, no matter what happens. And Dean Smith uses another timeout.
That leaves North Carolina with 1 timeout remaining. They were down 4 just a moment ago, but now they've seized the lead by 1. The Louisiana Superdome. Jim Nance and Billy Packer are inside. You know, Billy, November the 1st, almost 300 Division I basketball programs open practice for the season, dreaming of being here on this night, and it's come down to 2 teams and a little more than 2 minutes remaining. North Carolina leading by 1.
And Dean Smith went to the bench again. You have Williams, who's been his top scorer, and Reese on the bench.
Montrose on the blocks.
Going inside, but it's tough to score in there with that double down help. Lynch on a tough shot.
George Lynch's father, he loved it. That puts North Carolina up by 3.
And they go into a zone defense they haven't shown yet tonight. Lynch running the baseline, a 1-3-1. A little bit more pressure on the shooter in this defense. And obviously a lot of help down inside.
Get it into Weber.
There's that help.
4 players around him. And they call a foul on Sullivan.
Now, Jim, one of the things, fouls have not been a problem for anybody with one exception now, because neither team close to the shooting a free throw except on a shot. But what you can do now defensively, if a man gets down in there tight, is to foul him quickly because he's not going to the line.
That's only the 3rd team foul on North Carolina as they substitute Brian Reese, or bring him in for Rodel. And Sullivan also out.
What a gamble by Dean Smith to have his scorers. He figured he'd get them back and get 1 defensive possession out of his defensive twosome.
North Carolina has scored the game's last 7 points.
They stay in that zone defense. Lynch is the guy that calls all the moves underneath.
Rose lost it. In a pack, Williams surrounded by 3, and he breaks out of it.
Smart play not to try to make them. There's a foul, but again, you can go for steals here because neither team close to shooting.
That's only the 4th against the Michigan team in the second half. Number 3 for the game on Rose. So 4 on Michigan, 3 on Carolina. Nowhere really close to the 1-1. And Michigan wants a timeout. 1:18 remaining. Timeout Michigan. Carolina has scored 7 straight. North Carolina with possession and the lead, and they just had a very big defensive stand when they changed up defenses on Michigan, befuddled the Wolverines.
It really did, and now what you see is that you'd say, well, who's in the game right now? Talley is in the game, Bosco's in the game, and the reason for that, and I'm kind of surprised that Juwan Howard committed the foul, is that what Steve Fisher is going to do now is to go ahead and try to make steals and come up with a foul. Trying to get North Carolina to turn the ball over with aggressive defense.
Rodel in for Williams. Plus, they may have to get Carolina into a free throw shooting situation here in the last minute.
Exactly.
Trail.
North Carolina semi-delayed. Now Talley's reaching all over. And one of the things you have to be very careful of here, Jim, if you're Michigan, is not to have the intentional. I mean, you go out and grab a guy without going for the ball, then you really got a problem.
And that brings it up to now 16 fouls, so the next one will put him in the 1-on-1. So they take Talley and Bosco out.
Right. That was the strategy. Now, Dean Smith is looking for Donald Williams to rub off here and get the ball down the sidelines. He tells his assistant coaches to sit down. He's calm. They're not. And, of course, one of them over there played in 1977 Final Four.
Phil Ford.
Phil Ford, exactly. He played against Marquette, lost in that championship situation to Al McGuire's team. How about Weber? Phelps, a guard, very good with the ball. Weber playing him one-on-one in the backcourt. He gets a steal away from him, knocked away.
A near steal, but Carolina.
Now here's where you can't be too defensive with your passing either. You got to go look to score because they have everybody back.
Lynch to Montross, got to take it.
You've got to look to score, Jim. What North Carolina did not do before that, they played defensively. Excellent play by North Carolina.
Jackson firing up a 3.
He got it. He got it.
A huge 3.
2?
They call it a 2 now. My goodness. So it's a 3-point difference. Wow, Billy, I thought it was a 3. Timeout, Michigan.
Well, Jim, we talk about the shot that Rick Pitino hates. Of course, you love for them to go in, but look at that. By a few inches, that became a 2-point basket as opposed to a 3. And how often do we ever sit and talk about foul problems can be a problem? In this particular case, it's because there are not enough fouls. In the case of Michigan, they have only... North Carolina's only committed 3 fouls in this half, so they can play aggressive defense and keep Michigan from getting anything easy.
Michigan. Reese had his foot on. Reese had his back foot on the line. Michigan forces the turnover.
Jim, again, you play passively, bringing the ball in against the press. You've got to go long and look for a score if it's available. Michigan's got 4 guys playing up high, only 1 back.
What a break for the Wolverines. They insert Palinka. Knocks down a couple of 3s in the first half.
Well, I think a situation, you don't want to foul him when he's a 3-point shooter, but North Carolina can afford some fouls here. And Jim, we got to be thinking this Michigan team, out of their last 8 games, 4 of them went overtime. Do you think it could happen again? North Carolina involved in that triple overtime national championship back in '57. And of course, Michigan with an overtime championship against Seton Hall.
3 to tie.
Got it.
Oh, it sure looked good. Weber underneath. 1-point game. North Carolina by 1.
Michigan has no timeouts left. Sullivan pushed off, got by with it. There it is. Go long.
Rodel in the corner. 25 seconds remaining.
Playing keep
Palinka
away.
tried to call. He does, in fact. commit the foul on Sullivan. So Sullivan will go to the line with 20 seconds remaining. He's a 79% free throw shooter. He'll be in a 1-and-1.
Well, there was another young man that went to the line with 17 seconds to go a few years ago. Matt Doherty missed the front end of a one-on-one, which set up a shot that Sleepy Floyd hit to put Georgetown ahead of North Carolina, which created the shot that Michael Jordan then hit to win it for North Carolina. So Sullivan finds himself in the same shape as Doherty.
Williams comes back in. It's a 1-and-1 with 20 seconds left. Remember, Michigan won the first game this season by 1 on a last-second putback by Rhodes. Now, let's watch. A 2 to tie. Michigan will have to bring it.
Oh, he walked and the referee missed it.
Weber brings it into the front court. They have no timeouts remaining.
Oh, he causes too many timeouts. That's a technical foul.
He called a timeout. Michigan doesn't have any.
He got by with a walk, and Jimmy calls a he calls a timeout. He doesn't realize that's Michigan's too many, and so it'll be a technical foul. North Carolina shooting and the ball. A huge mental mistake. Steve Fisher calls his team back.
You know, at this, you hate to even harken back to '82, but there was a mistake, a mental mistake at the very same point of the game between Georgetown and North Carolina in 1982.
Absolutely correct. And everybody remembers Freddie Brown with the ball. Worthy really out of position on that particular play. Brown threw it to what he thought was a teammate out of the corner of his eye, and it was James Worthy.
Weber thought they had a timeout in their pocket. They did not. Thus, it's a technical foul against the Wolverines. North Carolina will shoot 2 plus have possession.
Correct. You'll see the walk, however. The referee had his back turned here. Doesn't see the play, but Weber walks on this one. Boom, boom, there's the walk. Now here he calls the timeout because he realizes he's in trouble. It's down to 11 seconds. And you can see the exasperated look on the sidelines of the Michigan.
Disbelief.
Yep. And it'll be Donald Williams going into the line, Jim. A young man who's had the hot hand throughout this tournament for this team, has been the real leader primarily with his great three-point shooting. Now has an opportunity to do it on the line. And if you're Michigan, not much you can do about it right here. You just have to hope that he doesn't make it. And of course, if you're North Carolina and you're George Lynch, you said we want to win one more for Coach Smith. And that's the position they're in.
It is almost eerie how this is setting up to be such a similar scene to 1982, the other year that Dean Smith won a national championship. If he wins one tonight, that'll be 2-2 in the Superdome.
Exactly, Jim. He is 5-0 in this building. Coming in here, has beaten Tulane twice, and then plus the win he had Saturday and the 2 wins to win the national crown. You know, they've named a dome after him already in North Carolina, the Dean Dome. Do you think there's any possibility that New Orleans may adopt him if Donald Williams is fortunate enough to hit these shots?
Yeah, you know, it's really the Smith Center, so this should be the Dean Dome if he wins tonight.
Maybe you call it the Smith Center when you don't live in North Carolina, but when you live in North Carolina, you call it the Dean Dome.
Not bad for a coach who had his first head coaching job in 1958 at Air Force as the golf coach. Went out to play a round of golf with an assistant football coach named Pepper Rogers and was told by the AD, low man gets the head coaching job for the golf team. Smith won.
And in addition to going to being a great coach, he's the man responsible for the $32 million that was raised for that Dean Dome.
Now look, 2-point differential, and since they'll get possession and Michigan can't stop it, he makes 2, this game will be over.
And Jim, the other thing that's interesting We talked about foul problems. It turned out not enough fouls with the problem for Michigan.
Four-point difference. North Carolina with 11 seconds to go, and they have the basketball.
There's a young man who's been a great shooter, but he opted not to come over for shooting practice on Saturday, rather had his meal. There's the offensive move.
Got to foul him.
But he said he'd rather eat his meal than come over and shoot. It certainly hasn't affected his play. Matter of fact, the young man is, I guess, broke a record here for three-point shooting in the Final Four. Huh?
He has made 10 out of 14 in the 2 games, Donald Williams. And how about Chris Webber? Well, what must be running through that young man's mind right now? Palinka in. Even if Michigan, should Carolina miss free throws and Michigan score at the other end, Carolina doesn't even have to inbound it.
The object is don't even touch the ball. Michigan cannot stop the game, and so basically the game is over.
Ray Jackson has fouled out with 6 points. But what about Webber?
Well, you know what he's thinking about. He's such a cerebral young man, has handled himself so well in the press conference. He's been absolutely fantastic with his knowledge of the game and the way he answers things, but maybe in the rush of the moment, Jim, going down there trying to beat 2 men, realizing it was 11 seconds on the clock, he just blanked out in regard to the fouls.
Dean Smith 8 seconds away from a second national championship. The Fab Five comes up short again. There you have it. North Carolina is the 1993 national champion. North Carolina has won the national championship 77-71, and Dean Smith, congratulations to you and the Tar Heels. This is your town now. 2 national championships with 11 seconds to go when Chris Webber called timeout. Did you realize the consequences right away?
I was probably a little slow, like 2 seconds. I remember they had no timeouts, but I don't know why it was. He was getting double teamed in the corner, wasn't he? And of course, we still with a good chance to win anyway. I really don't want to say, well, that's another fluke.
Well, you went on a 16-6 run to close out the game. How did you guys do it?
Well, Donald Williams really made some baskets, and we were fortunate too. They missed some easy shots, but I'm so proud of their competitive spirit of our team.
Coach, let me ask you, we're sitting there watching this game, the ebb and flow, and it looked like both of your coaches are saying, hey, I want to have my team fresh down the wire. I mean, you took some pretty calculated gambles.
It is so funny. Our main goal was to wear them out, and I think they wore us out. They're a great team, and we're fortunate to have won.
How about if we get some of your guys in here?
Right here. Donald Williams.
Had a great game.
Donald
Donald, you made another 5 out of 7 3-point shots.
For the stars, what is that? For shining moment. Yes, Boo.
That's coming up. We got it for you, Pat. It's coming up later, but tell us about some of the shining moments in your outside shooting.
Well, I started off a little nervous in the game, but my teammates and coaches really talked to me. And as the game went on, I felt really confident, and my shots started falling.
Billy's got a question for you.
No, I want to ask George Lynch. Where's George?
George Lynch, come on, George.
Come to Chopper Hill, baby. Come to Chopper Hill.
When did you give the emotional speech tonight to say that this is one you guys want to get for Coach Smith?
Well, I gave it, we're talking to him the whole time, let him know at the last 40 seconds that, it went down to the wide in Hawaii, and we didn't want him to get a rebound and a shot to upset us.
Hey, Eric, we saw your dad up there waving that North Carolina jacket of his. Will he be welcome at a Michigan Alumni Association meeting?
Yeah, that's pretty good for a Michigan alum, isn't it?
Hey, guys, I know at the East Regionals you did not cut down the nets. Are they coming down tonight? All right. Go after it. Congratulations, North Carolina, the national champions. And let's go back to Pat O'Brien.
All right, Jim, it's not deja vu tonight. It's deja blue here at the Superdome as Dean Smith wins again here. Let's go quickly to Leslie Visser. Leslie?
Pat here with Coach Steve Fisher. Steve, a tremendously tough loss. Had you told your kids in the last timeout that was the final timeout? What happened?
In the heat of the moment, strange things happened, and we had talked that we had no timeouts, and Chris said he heard someone holler and call for a timeout, and it's an awful way to have the season end when you've got a chance to get a shot to tie, and no one feels worse than Chris, but we're not here if it's not for Chris, and it's unfortunate, but I think first I want to say congratulations to North Carolina on a great game and a well-deserved championship, and congratulations to Michigan and our kids on a great game who also deserve the national championship.
You've called them the most talented, also the smartest team that you have coached. Is it enormously unfair to characterize them as underachievers?
Well, what do you think, Leslie?
I think so.
I do too.
What about, can you put in any kind of perspective, 2 tough years, tremendous years, but ending, a little bit rugged. Can you put in perspective last year and this year?
Well, totally different seasons. We had a chance to win tonight,